Well, good evening to everyone.
Mhm.
And I think we can start now. I'd just like to say my name's Jim McClellan, and I'd like to offer a warm welcome to those joining us this evening for the SSGN Conversations program. And I just wanted to say this program will be recorded and then it will be placed on our YouTube channel. So other people who can't join us tonight will be able to see the recording, and we'll send a link to the recording later on. So just a quick word about SSGN. We're an organization grounded in the tradition of the 10 spirituality and sustainability conferences that were held in Assisi and Rome, and based on the vision of Thomas Berry, as well as the Earth Charter and Pope Francis's Laudato Si, as well as indigenous spiritual traditions. And through networking and education, our goal is personal transformation of consciousness in the service of healing the earth. So tonight, we're so pleased to welcome Raisa Rodriguez and Dr. Susan Venita of the Peace on Earth Eco-Village Initiative. This village is a wonderful vision for reimagining a community through spiritual ecology, and is very much in line with our ideals. So I'd just like to say some quick introductory words about Raisa and Susan before I welcome Joe Holland to chat with them about their project. Raisa is the visionary founder of Peace on Earth Eco Village, and she has a background in sustainability development and financial strategy. And she's dedicated her career to creating spiritually rooted and ecologically sound communities that serve as centers for education, wellness, and global healing. Dr. Susan Venita is a holistic wellness entrepreneur and founder of Better Energy Everyday Wellness. With advanced degrees in environmental management and business administration, she brings a combination of healthcare sustainability and human rights advocacy to her work. Her current mission is to help co-create a wellness sanctuary in alignment with the Eco-Village vision. So I'd love to welcome Dr. Joe Holland to chat with our wonderful guests. I think you're muted, Joe, so.
Excuse me, right, okay.
Okay.
Before jumping into Susan and Raisa, which will be the much more interesting part, I just want to say a little something about eco-villages. I was introduced to the concept by Elisabetta Ferrero, who was the inspirational figure behind SSGN. And when I was teaching philosophy with her at St. Thomas University, where Raisa was one of our most distinguished students. And then thanks to Raisa, who she brought Susan in too as well, all equally distinguished. I would have been attracted to the concept of eco-village because we already have enormous numbers of climate refugees, and we're going to have many, many more. So establishing prototypes of a sustainable way of living, it could be future communities. People are going to be building new communities all over the place after so much dislocation that's coming down the pipeline, some of which is already here. That's one reason, just human need. The other reason, I think that eco-villages model the way the civilization needs to become. And at least in my analysis, we're living in what I like to call modern industrial colonial civilization. Its industrialization has been colonizing the planet and destroying the biosphere of the planet, but also colonizing people with colonialism and so on. Now it's colonizing our mind, with artificial intelligence and so on. And at every step of the way, it's removing itself further and further from the ecosystem of our home planet Earth. Some of the, big AI entrepreneurs, they're planning to abandon Earth after they've trashed it. Musk wants to go to Mars. Bezos wants to build space villages out somewhere between here and the sun, and all these kind of crazy ideas. But God forbid that they should take care of the Earth we live on right now. And they're quite willing to sacrifice it. And very sadly, many of the intelligentsia around AI are moving with the new right into eugenics, and they want to eliminate a lot of the human population as well. And they're certainly working hard to eliminate a lot of the rest of the life swarms on planet Earth. It's a very frightening scenario. So eco-villages could be symbols of a very different way of living, just simply showing that it's feasible, it's quite possible. We already have all the technologies we need to live sustainably, but there are major political obstacles to it. And I wanted to read to you just two, well, I want to read two definitions of them by people who've been in the eco-village movement. But first I thought, I don't know, Jim, if you wrote this, or Raisa and Susan, if you wrote this, just the description of what the concept is called in the flyer that we received, the concept of an affordable, beautiful, convivial, safe, and spiritual community, which creates an ecologically sustainable way of life. That's a marvelous way, I think, of saying what eco-villages are about. I'll read just kind of two definitions from the past. One is by someone named Jonathan Dawson. He is formerly the executive secretary of something called the Eco-Village Network, which is global. He was the the head of it for all of Europe. And a lot of the Eco-Village Network, and they have a wonderful website. You can simply go GEN, Global Eco-Village Network, gen.org, and look it up. Much of it, I think, grew out of the Finhorn community in Scotland, if you're familiar. That was an intentional community that became very focused on ecology as well. And Jonathan Dawson quoted this definition by Robert and Diane Gilman, who used to be the editors of In Context magazine. I remember subscribing to it years ago. It doesn't exist anymore, but I describe it as eco-villages are human-scaled, full-featured settlements in which human activities are harmlessly integrated into the natural world in a way that is supportive of healthy human development and can be successfully continued into the indefinite future. The second one is from Robert Rosenthal, who at the time was professor of philosophy at Hanover College in Pennsylvania. Eco-villages are the newest and most potent kind of intentional community, and in the vanguard of the environmental movement that is sweeping the world. I believe that they unite two profound truths. One, that human life is at its best in small, supportive, healthy communities. And two, that the only sustainable path for humanity is in the recovery and refinement of traditional community life. And I think here it's helpful to remember that until the Industrial Revolution, most humans, ever since we grew a little bit beyond the other primates, and especially since the 11,000 years BC, we began to settle down into non-migratory communities. And we're living in Neolithic villages, really, most people until quite recently. The Industrial Revolution changed all that. What I see eco-villages doing is going back to the old model where for over 10,000 years, humans lived in Neolithic villages, except this time the Neolithic meaning old Stone Age, not working with old stone tools, but integrating them with modern electronic tools of computers, internet, et cetera, which, by the way, contrary to the billionaires of Silicon Valley, who have centralized power over them, I believe that they're inherently, by their very nature, they tend to be decentralizing. So, and one other point, I think that these eco-villages in turn could become centers of rural regeneration. And that's not something that all of them have addressed, but I'd like to recommend a book to you about that. We know that the Industrial Revolution has continually and increasingly and still is devastating rural life. There's a wonderful book written by an old friend of mine, Anthony Flacovento, who lives in Southwest Virginia, with a foreword by Bill McKibben, by the way. This is the book here. You can see the picture of it. It's called Building a Healthy Economy from the Bottom Up, Harnessing Real-World Experience for a Transformative Change. I've got to go the reverse way of it looks on the screen here. There. So that I see these villages not as just something with a mission for itself, but as part of rural regeneration generally. Certainly, we can continue to have cities, but hopefully they would be much smaller and they would function in their earlier traditional roles as hubs for agricultural life, which would be linked into them organically. Okay. Well, with that said, let's turn over to our wonderful two speakers tonight. As I said, Raisa was my student and Elizabeth's student. She's just a brilliant person. I don't know how many languages I think fluent in 5 languages, Raisa is. She's multilingual as wonderful as well as being a wonderful businesswoman and lots of experience in real estate. I approached Raisa many years ago and asked her, what if we could start, do you think you could start a global eco-village project, maybe to develop a prototype, and what she's been working on, and it'll tell us about, and with Susan too, but also just to begin to explore the idea. And she's been working very, very hard on it. I wonder if Raisa at first, and then, well, I'll give Raisa a break. And then first Susan, Raisa told me let Susan go first because she's in the Toastmasters Club and would be a good host. And just tell us what drew you to be interested in this theme of eco villages, beginning with Susan, Dr. Susan Venita. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Holland. And to all our guests online and around the world listening in the recording later on. I was very blessed to visit eco villages in several countries and saw the model and fell in love with it. For example, I visited one in Costa Rica called El Silencio, and it was an experience where a lot of the inspiration has been drawn when you visit these different places and you are inspired by what they're doing and the outcomes that you were able to witness. So my inspiration came actually from being blessed to visit other eco villages.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susan. And Raisa, your interest, and you probably saw this from Raisa's real estate, but from bio there, but she has an enormous history in real estate development and real estate management, real estate finance. So Susan, we have a wonderfully gifted healer and wellness person that would be tremendous for what we hope will be at the core of the prototype that may eventually emerge. And in Raisa, we have extraordinary experience in real estate as well. Raisa, what drew you into it other than me forcing you to get involved?
Well, that was definitely one of my answers. But I learned about sustainability and the Peace on Earth Eco Village project when in 2007 I decided to return to school and I visited St. Thomas, where I was part of the Pax Romana Global Leadership Program under Dr. Holland and Dr. Ferrero, where I learned about sustainability and was able to integrate my experience with development for my love of the environment. So that's what really drew me into being involved with this project.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks. Thanks, Raisa. And tell us a little bit about your real estate background.
Well, my father's a developer. He has been developing commercial, residential, and multifamily communities throughout Miami, Hialeah, and Opa-locka for over 30 years. I myself was in the banking and finance industry for about 17 years until 2007 when I went back to school.
Wonderful. Okay, and Susan, just go back to you for a minute and tell us about your work in chiropractic and wellness and how that part of it bears on what we hope to do.
Yes, as a doctor of chiropractic, our philosophy is that healing comes from within, and really having that be one of the central parts but not only chiropractic, but really just natural healing forms are rooted in just when we're aligned with our purpose, when we're aligned in our bodies, when we're aligned in our health, things really flow. And I think that's going to be an important part when we're building that holistic center to draw those healers from around the world to help us to help others thrive is just exciting.
So would be just as there's like a life energy in our body. So in the community, there would be life energy too. And I think it's one of the sad things about industrial civilization, both in capitalist and communist form, that it drains the spiritual life out of the society, sucks it dry and makes it empty, and then it easily collapses into violence and nihilism. And I think by the way, both Susan and Raisa have their family roots in Cuba. And so we are experiencing here the capitalist side of the devastation, but in Cuba, you're seeing the communist side of the devastation. And they both are in a way cousins, I think, very ecologically destructive cousins, the industrial, two sides of industrial civilization. And neither of them, I think, adequately understands community, human community, or community with the earth. And that's to me what the eco-village principle makes it be very different. Okay, we've been working on this project, as they both know so well, for many years. We ran into a couple of real major delays. First of all, COVID was one big one. And secondly, skyrocketing of real estate prices, both of which held us in abeyance and changed the game a little bit. But I wonder if we might go over the history of a little bit. Raisa was the first one. I got Raisa involved, and Raisa got Susan involved. So we'll begin with Raisa. Tell us a little about what was some of the early history and what happened, what went on, Raisa. Looks like Raisa's transmission might be frozen there for a little bit. Well, I think we'll go over to you then, Susan. You came second stage there, but played a very important role. And you brought a lot of ecological experience in with your work in South Florida too. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Prior to being a chiropractor, I was studying environmental studies, and my master's is in environmental sustainable development. And I actually met Raisa through a lead certification program and building sustainable structures. And when I met her, we just became instant friends. And years later, after she graduated, she was looking for an eco-village project. And she kept saying, have you seen any projects out there that I can be involved with? And it just finally came to why don't we just do our own project? Let's just do our own, where stop seeking for another one. Let's be the solution. And that kind of just started the conversations. And we really just both drew on our experiences and our passion for not only the environment, but also spirituality. And then it just, when things are meant to be, that's the alignment portion, they just continue to flow. And even with those setbacks that you mentioned, we're trusting in divine timing and knowing that it will come to fruition when it's meant to.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I wonder, Raisa, I think we've lost Raisa, huh? Okay, well, hope we can get her back. Jim, do you have Raisa's phone number, by any chance?
I'll send you a message, Joe.
I could just give it to you probably if give me a second here, to call her. I think we can wait. She's probably lost a connection, and we'll get back as soon as she can. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, there's a website that Raisa and Susan created. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Susan, and how people can access it and look at it? Yeah. what the name?
Yes, and thank you. I saw it was shared on the chat for those that are online now, but those that are listening to this later or want to refer back to it, it is peaceonearthecovillages.org. And we have our vision encapsulated in this website, not only the structural and sustainability side, but our ideas for spirituality and our ideas for serenity, which comes with the holistic center in the model. We have different, like a vision of what it would look like. Also in the site, it talks about the idea of that work, play, and live. Also in the website, it kind of walks you through what the village will look like.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, that I should say that the name Peace on Earth Eco Villages goes back to my organization called Pax Romana, which is a Catholic movement for intellectuals and professionals, and also has a student branch, which is, I think it's in 87 countries. It's mostly an organization of Catholic intellectuals and professionals. It's over 100 years old in its roots. By the way, Pope Paul VI, who was a pope a few popes back, was the Catholic chaplain for Pax Romana in Italy, and later Pope John Paul II was the Pax Romana chaplain for Poland. Here in this country, if anyone who knows much about Catholic intellectual life, the famous Jesuit John Courtney Murray was one of the founders of Pax Romana here in the United States and a chaplain. And anyone who knows about Latin American liberation theology, Gustavo Gutierrez, who is considered a Peruvian priest, now a member of the Dominican order, considered the father of liberation theology, has long been the Catholic chaplain for Latin America. But the word Pacem it comes, Peace on Earth Eco Villages, comes from the Latin Pacem and that was the name of a papal encyclical written by Pope John the 23rd. Interestingly, for both Raisa and Susan, in the wake of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And the Cuban Missile Crisis, we came that close to blowing up much of civilization across the planet between the Soviets and the U.S. I don't know how very, very close. Pope John the 23rd, is not well known, played an intermediary role in diffusing it. He was one of his emissaries was attending a meeting at Dartmouth College, a meeting that had been set up for some time between Soviet scientists at the highest level and American scientists, nuclear scientists at the high level, to talk about disarmament and world peace. And they arrived there that afternoon, had cocktails, they sat down to look at the evening news and what was on it, the Cuban Missile Crisis. And this emissary, his name was a Belgian priest by the name of Felix Morleon, he said to the Soviets and to the Americans, do you think President Kennedy and Premier Khrushchev would agree to have Pope John the 23rd intervene? And they each called their respective top headquarters and they got an okay. And he actually was behind the scenes mediator. And if it weren't for that, we probably wouldn't be sitting here today, I think. And by the way, not too many people know about this. The U.S. Navy had orders from Kennedy not to do anything without his explicit command while they were trying to solve it. There was a Soviet submarine offshore from Cuba that had a nuclear torpedo, and there was a U.S. naval fleet down there with its aircraft carrier, and they had orders if war broke out to fire the nuclear torpedo and destroy the aircraft carrier, and that would have brought out World War III. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with, if we get nuclear war, there's something called nuclear winter. The cloud of gases which envelop the Earth will encircle the Earth, just like 67 million years ago when a meteorite hit just below the Yucatan Peninsula, a cloud of ashes covered the entire planet. and most organic life on Earth died because it was clouded. No sunlight could get through. The same thing would happen with a major nuclear war, would extinguish most of life. Anyway, they were underwater and they couldn't communicate with Moscow. And the US Navy, against President Kennedy's orders, started dropping depth charges on the submarine. And the captain said, uh-oh, that means the war's broken out. He told everybody, and he had 2 other officers, and there were 3 keys to access the nuclear torpedo. And he had to have the permission of the other 2 officers before firing it. And he wanted to fire it at the aircraft carrier. The second officer agreed and gave over his key. The third officer, who was a KGB officer on board, refused to do it. He said it's too much. It would blow up the whole world. And he says, we're not certain. He won't do it. They actually had a fist fight, and they actually finally conceded not to do it. And that man died a year ago in Moscow, a great hero. Thanks to him, we're all still alive. Anyway, John the 23rd, after that, wrote this encyclical letter, Pacem in Terris, Peace on Earth. And it had a very definite ecological tone for it. He said, the way geopolitics works now is just interest groups fighting each other. He said, we should look to nature, the way nature orders the world, in communities, in harmony. And he said, we cannot be guided any longer by these modern industrial ideologies, neither capitalism nor communism. They don't understand the real way, how humans are supposed to live in community and how nations are supposed to live in community too. And this encyclical, Pacem in Terris, is still celebrated at the United Nations annually as a great document, almost like equal to the Charter of the United Nations. I was privileged to take part in the 50th anniversary celebration at the UN of Pacem in Terris, and we actually published a book from the papers from a seminar that they had at that time. So that's the background. And by the way, John thought we needed a new civilization. The old civilization was dying. But he also thought it shouldn't be one by one religion. He thought all religions of the world should come together and contribute to this new civilization. It should be a spiritual civilization, but of all the spiritual traditions. So this is a great figure, John the 23rd, I think, for inspiration to guide us into the future. And so that's why I've used the Pacem in Terris as a symbol of where we're going. Okay, well, with that as a kind of background, and Raisa, welcome back. Susan and I went over a little bit some of the history, but I know we had a lot of, Susan explained the wellness and some of the vision behind it. You did a lot of the hard legwork, looking at properties and looking for financing and so on, and all we went through with that. You want to tell us a little bit about that part of the story?
Well, the last thing I heard you talk about were the snags that we've had along the process, and I wanted to go ahead and add to that. Because of COVID, the rising prices of land and people migrating to Florida that have just skyrocketed prices of everything. And yes, the land has become more expensive, but so has everything else. The cost of construction is more expensive. Everything related to financing, when you're talking about appraisals, surveys, loan fees, everything has increased in price significantly. So that has been a major snag as well. Also, not every community, not every city is open to the idea.
Right.
And others, it just takes forever to get anything approved. So it would take double the time or even triple, we were told, say in Marion County. Because the government takes forever to pass any legislation on permits and construction permits and any variances that one would ask for. So we've done a lot of research on which counties would be open to this idea. So that was another snag as well in the process. Your question was what I have been a part of since the beginning of communicating to the audience of St. Thomas and trying to get professionals to join us, architects, engineers, general contractor, developers, real estate agents who would help us find this land.
And in the beginning, we were looking for about 100 acres, huh? Is that right? Yeah.
Yes. And then because of legislation, we decided that anywhere between 60 to 80 acres would probably suffice for the
And one of the other,
amount of
yeah. And one of the other things,
units that we're talking about.
sorry, one of the other things we looked into was possibility of pre-manufactured or modular housing too. Huh? That was
Yeah.
another big exploration. Yeah.
Yes, but then a hurricane came through on the West Coast and wiped out every modular community, and what was left standing was concrete, was block.
Yeah, right. Okay. The that's the past. What about the future? Where do you see us going in the next few steps? I'll begin with Raisa and then Susan. Yeah.
We are looking for land in Central Florida, in a county that is open to the kind of community we're interested in co-creating. That is the immediate future. We're actively looking for land. And we have a couple of real estate agents looking for us, but it hasn't been as easy as we thought. There are also communities such as the sugar producing communities that exist around Lake Okeechobee, sugarcane, that they're communities that just don't want you to enter, and they won't. So we have to be aware of that. And that is what we're looking for in the immediate future. 60 to 80
Okay.
acres of land in Central Florida on higher land that is easily accessible and open to the idea of a sustainable community.
Good. And how about financing?
There are construction to permanent loans available. I am interested in being an investor. We are looking for investors. We're calling for investors that would be interested in going in together, perhaps on a land lease basis, in order to acquire this property.
Okay. I just wanted to point out that there is some serious work that's been done there as well. It's not just a pipe dream. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thanks so much, Raisa. Susan, tell us about your vision. What is this wellness thing at the heart of the community? Huh? And just practically, what would that mean?
It's definitely a center, not only for the residents of the community, which is very important to have access for everyone in the community to receive holistic care and in a different just model of the whole system, really being proactive and falling in line with what you said earlier, where the health of the community is vital to its sustainability, because healthy individuals are going to prosper and are going to provide to the land in a bigger way than someone that's not feeling well. So by having this wellness center at the core, it will be to really help the people in the community. But what's going to be amazing is that it will also be open to those in the surrounding community to have access to natural health care that may not be available in the area, or at least not easily accessible. And really, the principle is that it won't just be one person bringing in people to provide care, and also providing a kind of like a spiritual retreat type of model as well, where people come in for a weekend, receive learnings, receive health, and enjoy the community while they're there visiting. So it's definitely not only for the residents, but really building something for the entire community.
Okay, thank you, Susan. How about the spiritual dimension and also the, I don't want to burden you too much, but also the educational dimension? Would you say something about that?
I think as far as the spirituality, you really hit it when you mentioned where the inspiration came from, and that it's not about one singular spirituality, but whatever that means to you, and bringing it to the forefront of the community, being a community together, working together, trying to thrive in this community together is going to be essential in the spirituality side, and educating people on these topics and the different education, not only on spirituality, but on sustainability, how to build these ecological communities, and on the health side, how to be naturally self aware, and really that we are the healers within. And I really am excited about the education portion, because it's really about getting the word out there so that this can be replicated. We don't want it to be just a singular model in the middle of wherever. This is a prototype to what is possible around the globe.
Yeah, and the point that Raisa and I talked about early on, all over Florida, people are building housing developments all the time. At probably not the same or less cost, and certainly with less cost long term, you could build eco villages, eco communities. We'd rather call them that instead of eco villages, eco developments. So we thought this should be a model that would be truly replicable, that could be imitated broadly. Yeah. One final, this will be our final point, and then we'll open it up. But for both of you, but first, Raisa, how about others who might want to get involved in this? What would that mean? And what would you like to see for the involvement of others? Yeah.
Yes, if there's anyone listening that is interested in joining us and that could help us find that property in mid-central Florida, or is interested in helping with the design, the architecture, the construction, or the legalities of the community. We welcome anyone that would like to collaborate with us to create a sustainable community that we can all learn from and benefit from.
And then also maybe anyone who might be interested in living there and joining the community. Yeah.
Exactly. And I urge them to contact us through our website at
Okay.
peaceonearthecovillages.org, peaceonearthecovillages.org. They can head to the bottom of the page and contact us through there.
Great. And what would you say, Susan, about getting involved?
And to that same point, those healers listening to us right now that are passionate about being part of a holistic community where you can show your talent and help others be their best, we would love for you to get in contact with us as well, because we want to build the best team from all over the world, and we want to know how to contact you.
Okay, well, I want to thank both of you very, very much. This has been just a delight to hear the two of you. Jim, I'd like to open up now to any questions or dialogue, insights, challenges, objections,
Mhm.
whatever people might have. I think it might be best if you hosted that. I think you have control over it, or maybe
Well, in
Vanessa.
conjunction with Natasha, and but people can unmute. But first, I'd like to say that I thought it was very interesting what Joe mentioned at the beginning about eco villages contributing potentially to the revival of sustainable regional rural economies. And I've given a lot of thought to that could involve the revival of local arts and crafts and trades,
Right.
festivals, culture, youth education, but also local organic agriculture. So there's a multiplicity of 360-degree circle of potential for these communities to be a focal point or as a building block for the future. And I recall in Italy, Elisabetta invited a gentleman to speak at the Spirituality and Sustainability Conference in Italy, talking about the sustainable regions. And I wonder if Elisabetta might mention that in the context of the role that eco villages and communities could play.
Is Elisabetta here?
Yes, she is.
Okay,
Just has to
I haven't
unmute.
looked at all the people who's here.
Oh,
Okay, that'd be wonderful. Yeah.
Um,
And I told, before you begin, I told them in the beginning, I don't think maybe you were with us at the very beginning, that all this comes out of you, Elisabetta, because I
Oh.
learned all about eco villages from you.
oh my goodness. Such an interesting, really, what you have done, Raisa. I'm just amazed. No, I'm not amazed because you were a student, so I know what you did. But this is one of the most interesting Zoom meetings, really, for that reason. Yes, Jim, you're right. Outside of Assisi, there's a small town, and there's a German, a friend of mine, and he married an Italian. He moved a PhD teaching in Germany in one of the university. He moved to this small town, raised a family now. He's about my age, and extremely active. It's one of the best eco villages working in Italy at the moment. So it's true, these things can work. In fact, he came, Jim probably remembers that he came and he lectured also about what they're doing, the involvement and the youth, the people who live there, the youth, the way they develop. Some they're now leaders in Europe. So therefore, it's amazing. The education, whenever you put real education, real sustainability, real spirituality together, working and living together, it's just amazing, the miracles that come about. So I really hope this is going to take off, ladies, both Susan and Raisa. And I think all of us should really be considering being part to this, whether we are going to, contribute financially or even being on some kind of board of advisors. But I think it's so important today. Thank you.
thank you.
I should, if I could just, Jim, if I could just add one point
Yes.
on that about your fund, rural development. Anthony Flacavento, who wrote this book and got it, he's an organic farmer in Southwest Virginia. How he got started in this whole project, the local county had invited Amazon to come in and create an Amazon store there. They thought it would make jobs, but of course it would have wiped out all the small retailers and everything all over the place. And he convinced them to take the money because they were going to give big grants to Amazon to entice them to come, to instead invest that in kind of like a warehouse in the middle of the region that would be a center for entrepreneurial projects and for marketing, a center for marketing, exchange, and so on, and distribution. And it took off like crazy. It rejuvenated the whole county. He had one other important thing, that a lesson he learned. You could really do this stuff at the county level. It was very easy and everyone would support you. when you got to the state level, the corporations controlled the legislatures and they would try to block it and stop it, do everything possible. And the same thing was true with the national legislation. So it was a big legal battle and political battle to fight against it. But Anthony did that. He really did his as an organic farmer in Southwest Virginia. And some of us went to a meeting, right? So you were there, Susan. Were you there too? Yeah. Down in Floyd, Virginia. Song Lee was there and several others. And we had a little consultation. And this little town of Floyd is just blossoming because of what's happened to the whole county surrounding it come back to life. Businesses are growing up, people are moving in, settling it. There's more and more organic farms in the region. So it really is, it becomes a key for the whole area. Yeah. Thank you.
And
Good,
that
Jim,
reminds me, Joe, of you recently visited Bethlehem Farm in
Yes.
West Virginia. That is interesting in that context.
It's a one in Southwest Virginia, Bethlehem Farm, a wonderful, wonderful place. Yeah, that's connected to the Catholic Committee of Appalachia that I've been involved with for a long time. Yeah, very good.
Well, if anyone has a question or comment, please unmute. I see Elma Mukasa from Kenya. Welcome.
Oh, great.
Please unmute, Elma.
Elmo, you're muted. We can't hear you. Have to unmute. I don't know if you can unmute, Jim,
Yes,
I
now
don't
you
know,
hear me.
Natasha. Oh, there he is.
Natasha, can
Okay,
Natasha do? Okay, okay.
yeah, got it.
Yeah, this subject of the Eco Peace Village is a very good subject, and I appreciate what the two ladies are doing. They have talked about difficulties doing this in the US, like getting people on board. But also, holistically, we have to look at places where this kind of peace on earth eco village can easily work without this kind of problems. And the only place I will tell you where this can work spiritually is in Africa.
Yeah, I agree.
Reasons being, Africa is still developing. Yes, they have gone into modern structures, but not like the Western and the developed world. So, Peace on Earth Eco Village initiative to Africa, it would be the best place for them to do these projects because they will not get this kind of hindrances. There is so much vegetation land that has not yet been manipulated with modern structure, especially if you go to the interiors, name it, look at the Congo, look at so many countries in Africa where they can do this. And also, culturally, Africans are used to living together. So that can work easily here. And maybe also in the Caribbean, Latin America, and those places, they may not find that kind of hindrance. And I think for investors who have a global mind would be more interested. I'm talking about the global investors the US would maybe be more interested in investing in such a thing outside, because also it becomes like a tourism for them to explore other parts of the world, what can go on both holistically. So on the spiritual side of it, to me, it's a very good idea because we have lost so much when it comes to the spiritual side about taking care of the earth. We have considered our interests, development everywhere, this everywhere, forgetting that we have to live in unison with nature. And that's why you see we are facing all these problems of climate change and all hurricanes, all these things, because we have become selfish also. Yeah, we are manipulating everything we see on earth in the name of development. I'm not saying development is bad, but it should be done in a holistical, good way. So for me, my advice to the two ladies, if they also look at a wider front for this kind of communities, I think outside the US, they would do very nice with this project. Yeah, because there are places where Peace on Earth, Eco Village, will work properly and they will favor this idea. Naturally, it will work. So that is my advice to them. And as we are part of this kind of movement, ideas can be shared, because ideas are what makes things happen, and that's what brings development. Good ideas. So this idea is a holistic, spiritually good one. Yeah. Thanks.
Jim, could I piggyback on Elma's comments? Yeah. Many years ago, maybe even before you were born. I don't know how old you are, Elma, but I gave a seminar in Kenya and Tanzania about with the tribal nomadic peoples, the Zamburu, the Turkana, Maasai, and so on, about a lot of these ideas. And I left definitely in mind with what you had. And subsequently, I wrote a little book about Africa called Humanity's African Roots, that this is the root that we have to go back to. And not only is it for all the reasons you're mentioned, but also it's the biological center of the human race, but it's also the spiritual center, I believe. And African spirituality is the most ancient spirituality in the human race, and it's still full of great spiritual energy. But the problem here is our village life has been destroyed. So it's a tremendous job to try to recreate it. But wherever industrialization has least penetrated, that's the best place. And it's not about creating new eco-villages, it's about working with the existing villages. And so they could actually leapfrog over the industrial age and not have to go to the city, and enhance the villages with postmodern electronic technologies that are ecological, solar energies, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't. And by the way, we have Fidelis, who's here, can tell us going on the other side of Africa. We have several friends who've been talking about this and doing some things already. Maybe Fidelis could tell us something. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Joe, for inviting me. I thank the ladies for the wonderful initiative. Since we started the session, I've been doing a comparison between what you are saying and what we are nursing in Nigeria. It is better when she met me at or when I met her at St. Thomas University. She said, "Father Fidelis, I will work with you for Africa." And for more than 7 years now, we have been working on what I think is what you are talking about. And the gym is a big part of it. We have incorporated the foundation in Nigeria. It's called Plenitude Vitae Ecological Foundation. And we are also about purchasing more than 300 plots of land to build this. And it's considering the three aspects of integral formation: the physical, the intellectual, the spiritual. And by God's grace, we have gotten some people that are interested in partnering with us. We got an architect who has already designed the site plan and the building plans. In fact, we want to register the body, incorporate the body in Florida here, because SETI and Spirituality and Sustainability Global Network and Amor Relation, the three are really collaborating to make sure that what we are thinking about will come to fruition. And in no distant time, maybe Jim may work it out. By the time we are through with the incorporation and the production of the proposal, it will also be good to present what we have been doing for long to this body.
Yes,
I think
would
we
be
are
very
doing
good.
something great. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to, I see Ensign's hand is there. Ensign, would you kindly unmute?
Hi. Very exciting stuff, very interesting stuff. And I just want to mention the name of SSPN is Spiritual and Global Network. And the thing that
Ensign, I'm afraid your audio is not in very great shape, very clear.
May have lost his signal.
Yeah, I think the audio was not very good.
It was probably breaking up. Oh, here he is, coming back.
now, turn it up. Turn your volume up.
What?
Turn your volume up.
No, now it's frozen. Yeah. There. Okay.
Okay, any better now?
Oh,
Oh,
perfect.
that's much better. Yeah.
Sorry. When I work with the earbuds, it does something to the microphone. I don't know why, but in any case,
Right.
sorry. I was mentioning that SSGN, when we formed the entity to try to keep going with the CC conferences and other gatherings and so forth, and other initiatives, the whole idea was the network idea. And I'm going to reach out and ask Joe Einone to comment on that with his experience with his own CD operation, but also the other networks that he sees going on in Florida that may be very relevant to y'all's and our all's objective of going after an eco-village in Florida, hard as that might be. I think there's a lot of little pods of nodes of things going on in the last 5 years, stemming from the CC conferences. That's really was the inspiration. And Joe Einone is such a champion, such an extraordinary guy. Maybe he can speak to his experience of the networking and networks going on that might be relevant to y'all.
Thanks, Ensign. Before that, I'm familiar with resilient American communities. Up in Ithaca, there's a very vibrant eco-village that's been going on for a number of years in the Ithaca area. There might be a case study of how one starts and years later what happens when people move in, move out, grandkids come in. And there are prototypes of, as you all know, of eco-villages in the United States. Florida, of course, unless we do something about global warming, will be a sender community. They'll be sending people like to Ithaca and to the upper Midwest because of global warming. But Ensign is really a champion of networking in Florida, the Florida Network, the group I'm with, SETI, networking now, theological schools. But I think networking is the only way to go. You know, if this is going to take root here in Florida, it's networks that are networking. And I'd be glad if anything I could do to help out, be glad to, join networks and see how this could take root. But there are prototypes around the country, as you know, that are very thriving and have history. And history is important because it shows what happens after you start and what are the challenges, when people sell, when people move in. And so, yeah, I'd be glad to help out any way I can. But thank you.
Yeah, believe me, we'll be reaching back to you and connecting you with some interesting folks that are very active. Well, one of the things we had last year that we went to, a number of us, was a fellow named Tim Sellen, who has maybe one of the largest tree farms, certainly in Florida, maybe in the United States, maybe in the world. But anyway, he's up near Orlando. And he has a real movement going back to native plants, and they took 6 years to develop them, and they take 76% less water, less pesticides, They promote pollinators and so forth. So there's a fellow that's very much involved with construction and developers and all that. And, you know, the whole thing about the native plants as well, tying in holistically. So I think we're going to have a bunch of connections that at the very least will stir some possibilities and get you some people with real experience. You know, there's Climate First Bank going on in, I forget where they're headquartered. I think it's Orlando. But in any case, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. That may, you don't know what the puzzle pieces look like, but when we get them out there and you look at them, I think they may really aid the effort. So I'm very excited. And I think, you know, the people like myself, I'm in Ohio now, but I mean, I'm a resident of Florida and winter down there. The people that are working in Florida hope that if we can influence Florida to be environmental, which heaven knows they're like ground zero for environmental destruction, that we can influence, you know, the agenda all over the states and elsewhere. So the notion, notwithstanding the beauty of African potential of influencing Florida and influence the whole movement is really exciting, I think, and will be to other people that will get to see the video and get you in touch with.
Yeah, and that Tim Sallin that Ensign mentions is a key, you know, a key player. There are also developments that are developing near farms, you know, the connection between the farm and new development to get back to the agriculture. That's also happening in Central Florida. So we're not giving up on Florida yet, right, Ensign?
Right. No. You know, Emmanuel Roux in St. Petersburg with his in-town community farm and just some real dynamic stuff going on that gives you hope, you know, that these are not pipe dreams. These are people that really moving forward. We may be micro now, but we're going to be moving towards macro over time, I think. So it's very energetic.
Great. Well, this has been a very good conversation. I think we just have a couple of more minutes because it's getting on to being a bit late right now. Do we have any concluding? Father Fidelis, would you like to comment?
Yes, I sincerely wish to thank the American group and the forerunners of this movement for the interest you have shown in Africa and all the support you are giving us, all the encouragement. As Lisbetta will always tell us, we can't succeed without networking. We are really encouraged. We are really encouraged. Your support is encouraging us and is giving a lot of hope to people down there in Africa. Because whenever we interact with them and tell them what we want to do, it becomes a good news to them. So I want to thank all of you sincerely, Joe Holland, Joe Ironen, consigned Elisbetta, Metrak, the other people, Mr. Jim, who has been working tirelessly with me for months. All of you, you inspire us, you raise our hope, and I want to report that people at home are yearning to see these things materialize. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I think on that very encouraging note, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. A very inspiring discussion. And thank you, Dr. Holland. And above all, thanks to our wonderful guests, Raisa Rodriguez and Dr. Susan Venita. Thank you so much. I hope to network with you and move forward. Thank you very much.